When installing lighting poles, proper bonding is crucial for safety and code compliance. Here's a best practice method for bonding parking lot lighting poles, suitable for Southern California conditions. Firstly, gather the necessary materials. You'll need a copper bonding lug or ground clamp, number 10 American wire gauge solid copper wire, ground rods if required, and electrical tape. Now, let's move on to the method. Before pouring the concrete, expose the rebar protruding from the concrete base. This rebar will serve as the grounding electrode for the pole. Then, attach a copper bonding lug to the exposed rebar using bolts or clamps. Ensure that the lug is securely fastened and makes good electrical contact. Next, run a number 10 American wire gauge solid copper wire from the bonding lug to one of the 1-inch hole down bolts. Strip the ends of the wire and insert them into the bonding lug and under the washer of the hold down bolt. Tighten the washer and nuts securely to create a good electrical connection. As an additional safety measure, you can bond the other hold down bolts to the bonding wire using smaller gauge copper wire such as number 12 or number 14 American wire gauge. Strip the ends of the wire and connect them to the bonding wire using a crimp connector or electrical tape. If the soil conditions are poor or the site is particularly hazardous, you may need to install ground rods. Drive the ground rods into the ground to a depth of at least 8 feet. Connect the bonding wire to the ground rod using a grounding clamp. Regularly inspect the bonding connections to ensure they are secure and free of corrosion. If any connections are loose or damaged, tighten or repair them immediately. Here are some additional considerations. Firstly, use only approved grounding materials and follow all applicable electrical codes such as the National Electrical Code. Secondly, consult with a qualified electrician if you are unsure about any aspect of the bonding process. Thirdly, bond all electrical luminaires and equipment connected to the poles using appropriate bonding methods. Grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. Grounding creates a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, allowing overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses, to operate and clear the fault. Bonding connects all metal parts of an electrical system together to create an equipotential plane, minimizing voltage differences and reducing the risk of electric shock. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides comprehensive guidelines for grounding and bonding electrical systems. Article 250.4 of the NEC outlines the general requirements for grounding and bonding. It emphasizes the importance of creating a low impedance path for fault current and ensuring that all metal parts are effectively bonded. Section 250.4 specifically addresses grounding of service equipment. It requires that the service equipment be grounded to a grounding electrode system, which can include a metal underground water pipe, a ground rod, a ground ring, or other approved electrodes. Section 250.24 requires the grounding electrode conductor to be sized according to Table 250.66, based on the size of the service entrance conductors. For example, if the service entrance conductors are number 2 American wire gauge copper, the grounding electrode conductor must be at least number 8 American wire gauge copper. Section 250.50 requires all grounding electrodes that are present at a building or structure to be bonded together to form a single grounding electrode system. This is typically accomplished by using a bonding jumper to connect the various electrodes. Section 250.52 lists the types of grounding electrodes that are permitted by the NEC. These include metal underground water pipes, metal frames of buildings or structures, concrete encased electrodes, ground rings, and ground rods and pipes. When using ground rods or pipes, Section 250.53g requires that they be driven at least 8 feet into the ground. If rock bottom is encountered, the ground rod can be buried in a trench that is at least 30 inches deep. Section 250.64 provides requirements for the installation of grounding electrode conductors and bonding jumpers. It requires that they be securely fastened to the surface on which they are carried and protected from physical damage. Section 250.92 addresses bonding of metal enclosures. It requires that metal enclosures containing service conductors be bonded to the grounded conductor of the service equipment. Section 250.96 provides requirements for bonding other metal parts. It requires that all metal parts that are likely to become energized be bonded together to create an equipotential plane. Section 250.104 provides requirements for bonding metal-water piping systems. It requires that metal-water piping systems be bonded to the grounding electrode system at the service equipment. Section 250.118 lists the types of equipment grounding conductors that are permitted by the NEC. These include wire-type equipment grounding conductors, metal raceways, and metal armor of cables. Section 250.122 provides requirements for sizing equipment grounding conductors. It requires that the equipment grounding conductor be sized according to Table 250.122, based on the rating of the overcurrent protection device protecting the circuit. For example, if the overcurrent protection device is rated at 20 amps, the equipment grounding conductor must be at least number 12 American wire gauge copper. Section 314.4 provides requirements for bonding metal boxes. It requires that metal boxes be bonded to the equipment grounding conductor using a bonding jumper. Section 408.41 provides requirements for bonding panel boards. It requires that panel boards be bonded to the equipment grounding conductor using a bonding jumper. Section 547.9 provides requirements for grounding and bonding in agricultural buildings. It requires that all metal parts that are accessible to livestock be bonded together to create an equipotential plane. These are just a few of the many grounding and bonding requirements in the NEC. It is important to consult the NEC and other applicable codes and standards to ensure that electrical systems are properly grounded and bonded. In addition to the NEC requirements, there may be local codes and regulations that apply to grounding and bonding electrical systems. It is important to check with the local authorities to determine if there are any additional requirements. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. By following the NEC requirements and other applicable codes and standards, you can help to ensure that electrical systems are safe for people and property. Now let's delve into the specifics of grounding and bonding lighting poles. Firstly, the purpose of grounding and bonding is to provide a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, thereby tripping the overcurrent protection device and energizing the circuit. Secondly, it minimizes the potential for electric shock by creating an equipotential plane, which reduces the voltage difference between conductive surfaces. In the context of lighting poles, grounding and bonding serve several critical functions. Firstly, they protect personnel from electric shock in the event of a fault in the lighting fixture or wiring. Secondly, they prevent damage to equipment by limiting the duration and magnitude of fault currents. Thirdly, they reduce the risk of fire by preventing the buildup of static electricity and minimizing the potential for arcing. The NEC provides specific requirements for grounding and bonding lighting poles. Section 410.130b requires that metal poles supporting lighting fixtures be grounded. This can be accomplished by connecting the pole to the equipment grounding conductor of the branch circuit supplying the fixture. Section 250.112m requires that metal poles be bonded to the grounding electrode system if they are likely to become energized. This can be accomplished by connecting the pole to a ground rod or other approved grounding electrode. Section 250.134b provides requirements for grounding equipment connected by cord and plug. If the lighting fixture is connected by cord and plug, the grounding conductor of the cord must be connected to the equipment grounding conductor of the receptacle. Several methods can be used to ground and bond lighting poles. The specific method will depend on the type of pole, the soil conditions, and the applicable codes and standards. Here are some common methods. Firstly, direct burial. This method involves directly burying the pole in the ground and connecting it to a ground rod or other approved grounding electrode. This method is typically used for wooden poles and some types of metal poles. Secondly, concrete base. This method involves setting the pole in a concrete base and connecting it to the rebar in the base. The rebar is then connected to a ground rod or other approved grounding electrode. This method is commonly used for metal poles. Thirdly, anchor bolts. This method involves connecting the pole to the anchor bolts that secure it to the base. The anchor bolts are then connected to a ground rod or other approved grounding electrode. This method is also commonly used for metal poles. Fourthly, grounding electrode conductor. This method involves running a grounding electrode conductor from the pole to the grounding electrode system. The grounding electrode conductor must be sized according to the NEC and must be securely connected to the pole and the grounding electrode system. When selecting a method for grounding and bonding lighting poles, it is important to consider the following factors. Firstly, the type of pole. Wooden poles, metal poles, and concrete poles all have different grounding requirements. Secondly, the soil conditions. The soil conditions can affect the effectiveness of the grounding electrode. Thirdly, the applicable codes and standards. The NEC and other applicable codes and standards provide specific requirements for grounding and bonding lighting poles. Fourthly, the cost. The cost of the grounding and bonding method can vary depending on the materials and labor required. Regardless of the method used, it is important to ensure that the grounding and bonding system is properly installed and maintained. Regular inspections should be conducted to ensure that the connections are tight and that the grounding electrodes are in good condition. If any problems are found, they should be corrected immediately. Here are some additional tips for grounding and bonding lighting poles. Firstly, use only approved grounding materials and follow all applicable codes and standards. Secondly, consult with a qualified electrician if you are unsure about any aspect of the grounding and bonding process. Thirdly, bond all metal parts of the lighting pole together to create an equipotential plane. Fourthly, use a grounding electrode conductor that is sized according to the NEC. Fifthly, protect the grounding electrode conductor from physical damage. Sixthly, inspect the grounding system regularly and correct any problems immediately. Following these tips will help ensure that lighting poles are properly grounded and bonded, which will protect people and property from electrical hazards. Now, let's focus on the specific materials mentioned, namely copper bonding lugs, number 10 American wire gauge solid copper wire, and ground rods. Copper bonding lugs, also known as grounding clamps, are used to create a secure and reliable electrical connection between the grounding conductor and the grounding electrode. They are typically made of copper or bronze and are designed to resist corrosion. When selecting a copper bonding lug, it is important to choose one that is sized appropriately for the grounding conductor and the grounding electrode. The lug should also be listed by a recognized testing laboratory such as Underwriters Laboratories or Canadian Standards Association. Number 10 American wire gauge solid copper wire is commonly used as a grounding conductor. It is a good conductor of electricity and is resistant to corrosion. When selecting number 10 American wire gauge solid copper wire, it is important to choose one that is listed by a recognized testing laboratory. The wire should also be suitable for the environmental conditions in which it will be used. Ground rods are used to provide a low impedance path to ground. They are typically made of copper-clad steel and are driven into the ground to a depth of at least 8 feet. When selecting ground rods, it is important to choose ones that are sized appropriately for the soil conditions and the grounding requirements. The ground rod should also be listed by a recognized testing laboratory. The NEC specifies the minimum size and type of grounding electrode conductor that must be used for various applications. Table 250.66 provides the minimum size of the grounding electrode conductor for AC systems. For example, if the service entrance conductors are number 2 American wire gauge copper, the grounding electrode conductor must be at least number 8 American wire gauge copper. The NEC also specifies the minimum size and type of equipment grounding conductor that must be used for various applications. Table 250.122 provides the minimum size of the equipment grounding conductor for branch circuits and feeders. For example, if the overcurrent protection device is rated at 20 amps, the equipment grounding conductor must be at least number 12 American wire gauge copper. In addition to the NEC requirements, there may be local codes and regulations that apply to grounding and bonding electrical systems. It is important to check with the local authorities to determine if there are any additional requirements. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. By following the NEC requirements and other applicable codes and standards, you can help to ensure that electrical systems are safe for people and property. The rebar in the concrete base provides a good grounding electrode, as it is in direct contact with the earth. However, it is important to ensure that the rebar is properly bonded to the grounding system. This can be accomplished by connecting a copper bonding lug to the rebar and running a number 10 American wire gauge solid copper wire from the lug to the grounding electrode system. The 1-inch hold-down bolts can also be used as a point of connection for the grounding conductor. However, it is important to ensure that the bolts are properly tightened and that the connection is secure. The optional step of bonding the other hold-down bolts to the bonding wire provides an additional level of safety. This helps to ensure that all metal parts of the lighting pole are at the same potential, which reduces the risk of electric shock. When installing ground rods, it is important to drive them into the ground to a depth of at least 8 feet. This ensures that the ground rods are in contact with the earth and that they provide a low impedance path to ground. The grounding clamp used to connect the bonding wire to the ground rod must be properly sized and installed. The clamp should be made of copper or bronze and should be designed to resist corrosion. Regular inspection and maintenance of the bonding connections are essential to ensure that they remain secure and free of corrosion. If any connections are loose or damaged, they should be tightened or repaired immediately. When working with electrical systems, it is important to always follow safe work practices. This includes wearing appropriate personal protective equipment, such as gloves and safety glasses. It is also important to energize the circuit before working on it. By following these safe work practices, you can help to prevent electrical injuries.